What's good, YouTube? You know who it is. It's your boy, Neon Diamond 101, back again talking about Degrassi Next Class, Season 3, Episode 6, hashtag that feeling when. Let's get on into this. As always, I'll talk about each storyline separately. So let's talk about Zoe. She's in class, and Winston kind of makes a remark that he's interested in Rasha, and he wants Zoe to ask her out for him. I guess because she owes him for leading him on last season, so that's all fair. And I mean, hey, Rasha is attractive, so go for it, Winston. I'm rooting for you, but we've also had hints prior to this that Zoe is kind of interested in Rasha. Um, so Zoe, like a good student council president, asks Goldie about Muslims and being gay, because as student council president, she should know all these things. And obviously, Goldie has said this before, that it is stated that being gay is a sin. Um, and after that, Winston kind of is like, yes, or I think, I'm not sure if he's there now, but whatever. When he hears about this, he's excited because he thinks, okay, if no one can be gay, then that must mean Rasha's not gay. And I'm like, Winston, put your thinking cap on, man. Put your thinking cap on. Seriously, like, that logic made no sense. And I know Winston's kind of quirky, and he's just looking for love. Hey, I like Winston, but I'm like, dude, that means nothing. So obviously she talks to Grace about switching partners, and she has to talk to her about like being scared of rejection. And obviously Grace is a lot smarter than Winston, because she's like, do you think every single Muslim is not gay just because the Quran says, being gay is a sin? Kind of like Christianity, where like people, just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you have to be straight. And obviously, there are people who are very judgmental about that, but seriously, like literally that's just crazy to talk to me. So, um, Zoe tells Rasha that Winston wants to get coffee, and before that she kind of asks like, what do you think about Winston? And she thinks he's cool and that she likes him. She likes a lot of people, and we understand that Rasha doesn't really understand like the social like lingo. So she talks about coffee with Winston, and she's like, sure. Even though Rasha doesn't really ask, why does he ask himself? But it's whatever. So in class they're talking, and they're doing like the robotic thing. Um, and then Rasha says that I think Zoe asks about the date, and then Rasha says, "Yeah, I got my um, curfew extended." And I'm like, "Whoa!" Like, what kind of first date is this gonna be? Like, is Winston gonna get lucky? And then Rasha's like, "No, I'm just kidding. I found out what coffee really means. It means date." Zoe's like, "What do you mean? What did you think it meant?" And she's like, "Well, where I'm from, it just means coffee, just like meeting up with a friend, getting coffee." And so she asked Zoe if when they went out to coffee, if it was a date. And then Zoe's like, no, I mean it can mean friend, and she's kind of like not really sure what to say. And then Roger said that's too bad because she likes Zoe, and then Zoe's like, I like you too. Rasha says I can out myself, which is obviously going to be a huge thing. I feel like that's going to be huge because Zoe kind of makes a remark like her mom is Catholic and all that stuff. So either Zoe and or Rasha are going to be outed, and I'm curious how Goldie will feel about that, because that'll be a huge thing. So this will be interesting to see. I'm happy for Zoe. After everything she's went through last season, I'm happy that she has someone, and Rasha seems very genuine. So there's no one better for Zoe besides Rasha. So I think Rasha is a good choice. Anyways, so let's talk about Myles. So in the beginning, he tells Grace and Jonah that he wants Lola to be Hope because she auditioned and she killed it. Grace is very, Grace is on it. She's always on it, especially this episode. Like, she's kind of like the, I don't want to say the motherly figure. Like she's like the wisdom person of like the whole school. Like whenever you need some real like talk, like Grace will give it to you 100%, no BS, no twiddling her thumbs. Like she gives it to you straight, and this is why I love Grace. So Grace is like, "Are you hooking up with Lola?" And I think they asked this before, and obviously before Miles said no, but now he fables because not only did he hook up with her, he had sex with her. It wasn't just a kiss or, a little makeout session. They had full on sex, and he denies it. And Jonah's like, well, he deserves to move on. And I love this back and forth thing between Grace and Jonah, where he's like, he can move on, and then she's like, it doesn't mean he can cheat. And then Jonah says, "Well, you can't cheat on you can't cheat on someone who's in a coma." I thought that was a great line. I mean, can you? I don't know. I've never had that situation before. So Grace is also like, he can't just cheat on him. So it's like whatever. So they're still a little suspect, but in the hallway, Miles tells Lola that they can't really do anything, and she says, "Can we still talk and text?" And he's like, "I don't see why not." She's like, "I like talking to you." He's like, "I like talking to you too." And when I think they're about to hug, he goes in for a kiss, and then they pull back, and I'm like, this is like in the middle of the hallway, like this is like one of those moments where like someone has like their camera phone out and starts recording, and if someone does that, then I won't feel bad for them because there's a thing called being discreet. I at least try to be discreet. Like when I don't know when Drew and Claire would sneak around or so, I don't know, but at least be discreet. Not only that, they kiss again, and I mean that would be crazy if it gets recorded and it gets sent to Tristan before Miles can tell him. But in class, he gets a text from Tristan's mom and coming ASAP. I'm thinking it's gonna be bad news, and then we find out Tristan is awake. Tristan is awake, but it's really sad, like really really sad, and great acting, by the way. Um, the way Tristan's eyes looked, and he just looked like very like dull, like not like brain dead, but he just looks because like if you're brain dead, then you're pretty much dead. But he just looked like very numb, like he was very out of it. So Tristan still has a long way to go, but great news that he's okay. And so here we go again, where Miles goes back to his old self, and he's freaking out during the rehearsal and when Lola and him are doing the part, like when they're doing like the kiss or whatever, he freaks out. And we've seen this guy before. We've seen this old Miles before, and he's freaking out. He goes back to hospital. He tells Tristan he made a mistake and he cheated. Now I think he said I had to play back. He said I cheated, and I'm not sure if he said once or I cheated once, like he was talking about a previous. Not he was saying I cheated. But regardless, as soon as he said I cheated, like Tristan, like you can hear something like Tristan's like throat gargling, like he's doing something, and Miles thinks, "Oh crap, he's in trouble, he can't breathe." But I think the nurse walks in and says he's trying to communicate, and so Miles says, "Are you mad?" Squeeze my hand, and I think the lady says, not sure if it was his mom or something, but or the nurse saying that he's not sure about the world around him, so he still has a while to go. So yeah, so he talks to Maya, and she randomly comes and she says, "I wasn't up for it to see Tristan," and he's like, "Well, what do I do?" And she's like, "Kill yourself." And then he like jokes, and they kind of laugh about it because like he thinks it's a joke, but like Maya is like he if only he knew what Maya is going through. So I feel like this is some foreshadowing for some dark stuff because obviously Maya's storyline is going to be really dark. And I know we've been through a lot with Maya. Maybe you don't like her, but I think this is probably one of the darkest storylines we've had with Maya and in Degrassi, period. So he apologizes to Lola, says he shouldn't have treated her like that. She's like, yeah, you shouldn't have. He says he'll quit the play. She says she will because it's his idea anyways. And then he's like, okay, we'll just have to stay and obviously deal with it and they agree, like, hey, we're gonna do the play together, and that's it. And so Lola later, after Frankie's meltdown, which I'll talk about in a bit, she realizes that she's been taking her birth control pills wrong. And actually, I thought when she said Frankie was taking the pills wrong, I thought Lola was right because she was like so like convinced like Frankie was taking them wrong. But plot twist, Lola has been taking them wrong. So there's a possibility that Lola is pregnant, and that is gonna be crazy because now that Tristan is waking up and, Myles is running right back to him. And I told you guys that in the previous recap that Myles has had a past of manipulating, and yeah, he has been better, but kind of like what he went through with Maya, and kind of like even like way back when he and Zoe were together. I know, crazy, right? But like he's always had this past where he has like he's with someone, but there's always someone else, and yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, so the last storyline we're with Frankie. She's taking selfies outside in these really short shorts and kind of a provocative outfit to get Jonah's attention. And she's taking pictures of Shay and Tiny, and she stalks his Instagram, and she sees he's at the dot with coffee, drinking coffee with someone else, and she goes in. There's another girl, and Jonah's like, "You need to leave," and I'm like, why does she need to leave, dude? You doing something you shouldn't do? But she says, she explains herself that she knows him from NA, and she's like, NA, and he's like, Narcotics Anonymous, and she's like, oh, and so she leaves. In the hallway, she apologizes, gives him a guitar, and he says he cares about her, but he doesn't know how to prove it, and she's kind of like, why didn't you tell me you were in NA? And he says, you wanted me to give you some space, which she said at her house when everyone was over. So she talks to her friends in class and asks if she's a crazy girlfriend. They're like, well, you get really clingy and jealous, and you put a lot of pressure. And hey, it's true. Frankie gets really crazy with these relationships, and she kind of just like loses herself, kind of like where I made the comparison with Allie, where she like her like whole life, like not to say like dating isn't bad, but like Frankie really like puts like everything in, and it's kind of like she really like stresses herself out. Not to say like stress in a relationship isn't normal, because it is. Like there's always gonna be stress, but like it's always like a constant factor with Frankie. So they're like they kind of like address it to her, which I enjoy that Lola and Shay were there for her, giving it to her real. And so she kind of realizes like maybe it's my fault. And so in the car, Frankie tells Jonah that she needs to figure herself out. That's a classic line. Like, I need to figure myself out. But seriously though, Frankie, I have no problem with Frankie. She's being honest. She's like, hey, I need to figure myself out. I'm being too stressed out with this relationship. And as they say, love isn't enough. So even though she loves him, it's not enough. Jonah's like, are you serious? And then he's like, we need to take a break. And as soon as I heard break, I'm like, it's done. Like, even Jonah's like, no, breaks don't work. Like, seriously, breaks don't work. Maybe they work sometimes, like rarely, but for the most part, breaks do not work. So, in my eyes, Frankie and Jonah have broken up. We all know it. Like, let's be honest. This whole break thing isn't gonna end well. I don't know how it's gonna end up. Either Jonah gets with Grace. But I know this break isn't gonna end well, so let's just be honest. This isn't a break. This is a breakup, and this is kind of like what Frankie's deal is. Like she can't like let go 100%. Like, hey, maybe you and Jonah are better as friends, but no, she still wants to hold on to it. And yeah, what do you guys think about Jonah and Frankie's relationship? I know it kind of came from nothing, like randomly, like it just kind of like came out of nowhere, and they kissed, and then there was something there, and she still liked Winston, but she liked Jonah. So I don't know what you guys thought about this relationship, but for me, it's over. And if they get back together, I'll be very surprised. Um, so yeah, they shake hands awkwardly, and that's it. So yeah, what do you guys think about this episode? I thought it was pretty great. One note: Grace was coughing. I believe I caught 2 different times throughout this episode. So I think obviously we know Grace has cystic fibrosis, and I think either she's getting more sick or like whatever treatment is not working. So I noted that she kept coughing throughout this episode. So I wonder what you guys think about this. Anyways, what do you guys think about this episode? Thank you all so much for watching. It's been your boy Neon Diamond 101. Peace.